Azure Remote Rendering is an Azure mixed reality service that's available to everyone, and it enables extremely high detail, high fidelity geometry on limited hardware because it renders in Azure and then it streams it down to endpoint devices like HoloLens or desktop. So this means you can get around the limitations of the processing power on small form factor devices. Really, it's a service that provides an extremely easy way to leverage the powerful GPUs in the cloud so that you can render anything you need to render. And we support up to 2.5 billion points on point cloud models and over 1 billion polygons for meshes if you're using the premium version. And so this opens up a lot of key mixed reality use cases like collaborative design, layout review, on devices that might not otherwise have had the strength to do all of that.
Hi everyone, I'm Lucy. I'm a creative technologist based in London. And thank you Global XR Conference for having me. And I'm really excited today to be talking about creative and artistic expression in immersive technology. So a little bit about me. I am a multi-disciplinary creative technologist and also artist who blends creative production and artistic expression with technical insight and game engine development. I have a concept and technical mindset with a vision to merge realities and also explore society's relationship to technology. I'm also really interested in addressing our digital footprints and that impact on the real world. I am working at the intersection of experiential design, extended reality, in particular Unreal Engine game engine development, and creative direction for immersive technology experience. Recently, I joined as a creative tech practitioner for a Story Trails project with Story Futures in the UK. I had the opportunity to work on a virtual reality placement with 2 studios in collaboration, Indigo Storm XR and Studio Anric. I got the opportunity to work on a VR project, storytelling project called the Museum of Imagined Futures. The goal of this project was to explore our relationship as humans to nature and technology, and what the future might look like in 50 years if we were to think about nature and technology working together to protect the planet that we're living on. I am an educator in digital technologies at London College of Fashion, and I previously was the co-founder and creative director for The Immersive Kind, a creative technology collective. I was also the ambassador for Women in 3D Printing UK. I'm currently working in creative design, game engine development, and also collaborative, people-focused, world-building arts and community and culture projects. and I'm particularly interested in working in immersive technology, storytelling, research and development. And I really want to explore the new generation of digital media. I already touched a little bit on the Future Museum project with Indigo Storm and Studio Anric, and I'm just going to show you now a trailer of the project, so please enjoy.
Come closer, human. Pluck a vision from the past to see how your fellow humans imagined their future.
In the year 2000, I think I'll probably be the spaceship to the moon dictating robots.
In this project, I worked as lead developer. We worked on a very creative project in a kind of quite short time frame, considering we were building those 3 worlds that you saw in that trailer, as well as also tackling the research question, which was using archives from the BBC and the BFI. We wanted to look at archives in the way that we were exploring how people in the past might think the future of our current day is. So obviously it was a very creative project from the beginning, as any role in the space for virtual reality storytelling may need. So I worked closely with the creative director and tech lead to envision ways to implement and design the user experience. So I did things like the navigation, so how you would teleport from those glowing domes across the world, how you would choose to enter the maps, and also how you may interact with bubbles, the user flow, level design. I also collaborated really closely on with the other creatives as well, which was really valuable for me. I was able to meet environment designers, sound designers, technical artists, developers, and user experience consultants. I learned how important it is to hear different perspectives and how you can experience a virtual reality piece. I think when you get the opportunity to work on a digital creative studio, you really start to understand why it's important to have different opinions when you're creating a project. Everyone's feeling when you're entering a VR space is going to be different, depending on how familiar you are with VR, how much you're into gaming, or how little you know. So for me, my role was about mitigating any uncertainty for users for the way they want to understand and experience the story, as well as their access in the space. And it was also about making a creative and interactive experience for more digital natives. This is a really important and exciting part as well about being a creative in this field. We're getting a new generation of users, whether they're young people in their teens or in their 20s. They've grown up with digital media, and we know that this is only going to become a bigger and bigger audience. But then we've got the other side where we've got people who have never used VR or don't really use technology confidently. This project really taught me how to think about reaching various audiences, because the project got toured with Story Futures on the Story Trails project across libraries. It was about bringing people together and learning about big issues, and in particular our project was about the environment.
Before long there'll be hovercraft and a bridge over the channel, atom pellets to drive cars, and half the ordinary jobs will be done by computers, even in the home.
So I'm now going to talk to you about another project. This one is not working in a creative technology studio, but it was more collaborating with an artist. This artist is called Sophie Rogers. Recently, they exhibited their work on the October residency of Gazellio. This is a digital art and also fine art gallery based in London. I recommend that you have a look at the Gazellio Digital Art Residency. It has lots of emerging artists, including myself. I exhibited 2 years ago there, exploring art as well as, and that from the art perspective, that convergence into immersive technologies or artificial intelligence. It's a good way to see where the art field is coming into the direction of immersive technology. But before Sophie exhibited the work at the Gazellio, a year ago, Sophie came to me in the hope to basically start off a project, a gaming project. So she's more in the digital arts, and it was the first opportunity for Sophie to explore how to create the artwork and her practice into a game. It's called 3 Minutes to Midnight, and it was funded by Arts Council England. So far, the project is a game iteration, and at the moment we're sort of still designing it, and Sophie's developing the assets and working further on the creative vision. I joined as a collaborator and creative developer for Sophie Rogers' art project. The project inhabits this temporality, the time of impending apocalypse, a time in fairy tales associated with the breaking of a spell, and a time that relates to our age, commonly referred to as the Anthropocene, a time of great urgency and consequence. I think it's post-Anthropocene. So Sophie came to me with this idea of deep time and the climate emergency, and also thinking about interconnected and interdependent species. So together we worked on planning the worlds and different environments, and I advised Sophie on how to design a level in the way that we would think about our maps and the user flow of the game. What was the perspective? And we decided that we were going to have 3 avatars, and as you go along in the story, the characters morph from one species to the next and then to the next, and you go in and explore different worlds. So I supported Sophie in the visioning of this, and I guided Sophie, but then I also helped in sort of implementing the avatars. Sophie designed the avatars, and then I gave and offered different pipelines for Sophie to be able to show the way that she wanted this character to be envisioned. We also thought about what the interactions might be, and I helped Sophie think about what development was needed and discussed the storyline. We're still very much in the early stages of it, but I want to show you a video of the character development in the dev room, just so you can see how much fun it was. So, as well as being a creative technologist, I've already mentioned I come from an art background. I'm a trained artist and also create my own digital art, as you can see on the slides. These are very little simulations of how I begin and think about my process. But I've developed a process that originally, because I started as an artist, was born of the idea of creating collages. And then I brought those collages into object performances, and I'd create object performances quite sculpturally. And that was when I got inspired to think about maybe simulating and pushing the boundaries of the physics, of what you can actually see, and basically visualize and experiment more. In these visuals, you can see I'm using Blender as a software. And I'm creating simulations of small little parts of worlds before thinking about creating a bigger world building project. This really helps you be able to be creative, experimental, and not hold back on having these little quirky visions. I find this pipeline really useful because you can explore and then you can disregard something and be like, maybe that doesn't work. And it's just thinking about also learning about, that was a perfect way for me to also learn the process of going from Blender to Unreal Engine. I think as I'm developing my skills more in Unreal Engine, I may sort of merge the skills in developing with Blender also with Unreal. As you can see that I may have combined a bit of Illustrator work or photogrammetry with these 3D spaces. And again, I could then go into now Unreal Engine and use my skills, for example, in Niagara, to start envisioning smaller parts of a project. So you've heard a little bit more about my projects, and I've also got other projects I'm working on at the moment, but these ones are more evolved and are out in the public domain. Now I just wanted to bring you all into more like the way of thinking of being a creative who's working in technology. You've seen a little bit of visuals now, and if you're wondering maybe what is a creative technologist, do I want to work with a creative technologist? What can they bring to my project or to my team? Or maybe you want to develop and think a bit more about becoming more of a creative technologist yourself. I've decided to break down some ways that I think about creative technology. As you can probably see, I've had quite a bit of experience in Unreal Engine development, and I think as much skills that you have in technology are really important, but I think equally very much that confidence and that desire to be creative and share is also important. But I just thought it would be good just to break down the idea of creativity and technology. Creativity, to me, is about communicating through inspiration, experimentation, reflection and critiquing. These were really important things that I think artists learn, particularly in the fine art field. And I'm sure in the broader creative industries, any successful creative will feel like these things are really important. Creativity does exist within everyone, but it's about finding your way to respond and express to the world around you. I learnt the value in being open-minded, experimental, reflective and critical to my work. And it's about the process, but it's also about how you choose to present your creative process. Whereas with technology, I think it's a completely different shift because it's about collaborating with engineering, systems, machines, rules and problem solving. Creativity isn't you're not going to be going through a rule as such or problem solve or work with a system, but you may be working in a different rule set that you have developed in your own creative process. Whereas technology, you're working with other people's development and innovation. Technology is built on years of innovation and collective intelligence. Our current status in technology has evolved through minds of the past, and I believe it's very creative. Anyone innovating in technology have found different ways to be creative in a more scientific and technical way. The makeup of any software or digital computer is from zeros and ones, binary code. So working with technology is about working within a system or coding language, but it's also about finding ways to create relationships between the multiple systems that have been created by these engineers and inventors. So, probably what we're thinking is, what happens when creativity and technology meet? I think also that it's quite important for me to mention that technology is also maybe, it doesn't have to be software or computer technology, but today I'm talking about that. But I think you can sort of see that there's a lot of technology around. But what happens when creativity and technology meet? First of all, I've listed that it's people-focused. People-focused is design. It's about being able to think about how people respond to technology. It's about being able to bridge that gap between a potentially colder piece of technology, the zeros and ones, and finding ways to push those boundaries of the potential and see what this tool could represent in the future. We can go beyond that, and it's about connection. I think connection is something that's extremely important because we really need to think about connecting. As you see already in technology, we're connecting across the world. It's about including people in your world or your thinking. I think technology is about accessibility. The more people who consume the technology, often that's what everyone wants. We're working towards having as many people who can enjoy the creative technology as possible. Creative thinking often emphasises connection to one another. It's about sharing your creative expression and desires with the world. So when this outlet meets technology, we can create new tools and experiences for others to enjoy. As you see, we've got Unreal Engine, we've got Unity, we've got Adobe. All of these have been built to become creative tools. And I'm sure we'll start to see more and more creative tools being designed for creatives, but also for the general public. So when creativity and technology meet, you've got opportunities for people to experience places in new ways. And again, as I said, it helps it become more accessible for others to use. And of course, we've got virtual platforms and experiences. They're a prominent place for this to be explored. We can translate our real world ideas into digital spaces, digital activations, digital conversations. This has a lot of power in the way it can reach different audiences, break barriers, defy physics or other real-world constraints. We are at a stage in our world where a lot of creativity is often a response actually to the technology around us. So whether this be by using game engine software to help visualize an unreachable environment, be inspired by digital art aesthetic, or using artificial intelligence to identify untold perspectives in the real world. There are many ways to be inspired by our collective intelligence in technology. We want to inspire the next generation in the way that they consume our advanced technologies, like extended reality, the metaverse, or blockchain. I think it's really important that we have creativity and technology meet, because we don't want the big tech companies to be dominating the way that technology is consumed. Often, I think when there are smaller independent studios, creatives, collaborators, inspiring communities, reaching out to people who don't know technology, that's when we can problem solve and think about how technology can reach and be best used. So what is the role of a creative technologist? I think the role of a creative technologist can mean many things, but here's a few tips from me of what I've learned. I think you need to definitely be experimental. Creative technologists offer the opportunity to have that open mind as a creative. It's always good to see other options. So when working with creativity and technology, often the idea you imagine will always change into various different iterations. So enjoy the process and discover new approaches. You've also got to, in that idea of being experimental, it's also really important to know your technical strengths. What can you support others with? What is your special skill? Are you a really good problem solver? Do you know a software in depth? Are you a designer or an architect? Or do you have really good foresight? You may be entering it from a creative, or you may be entering this idea from a technologist. So different tips are more useful for different people. If you are working on a particularly creative project, sharing your creative approach with the team is also really important, because you can share how that you, as a creative, can also share how technology is being made. This saves time, bridges the gap between artistic expression and the technical challenges and the work that you're facing. And this can also mean that people can also mitigate problems from the vision or the creativity. This saves time, and it also means that people feel involved, and I think you end up getting a better output in the end. It also protects you in a way in the long run, in making sure that people enjoy working with you. So that leads on to being flexible with your collaborators. When you are working with creativity, you need to be able to offer different routes and choices. And this also allows you to choose and shape your creativity. So including others in the design choices enables a much more collaborative approach and helps avoid problems in the future. You want everyone to feel like they understand the outcome. The other final thing that I would suggest is to problem solve and be flexible with the technology. I think it's important to accept that sometimes you will need to innovate and enter spaces that are undiscovered and uncomfortable. It is about finding resources and designing solutions with the future in mind. Thank you, everyone. Please ask me questions in the Discord. I'm on there. And I'm always looking for connections and collaborators. I hope that this talk has been helpful. This is what's happening in the UK. I'm one of many creative technologists out there, I'm sure. Please connect with me. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.